just like in anything in life, among our veterans, no matter what branch, that they are, no matter where they served or what scenario they served in, they go years and years without talking about it. They go years and years without seeking help.
Starting out at a young age, I was, me and my brother, build tree houses outside, always playing outside. I remember growing up, my dad would take me and my brother to the Kingston Armory. I remember I got to ride around in some sort of tracked vehicle, and from there I just knew, I was like, I want to do this. I want to do something like that. Playing in the yard with my dad, with little G.I. Joes, digging out like little foxholes for them, and yeah, just growing up with that mentality, looking up to my father. He was a real big hero figure for me. Went to high school, I got into dirt bikes, or working on cars, and then me and my buddies started talking to each other. We should go into the military together.
I grew up in a military family. My father served in the military. It was always something I had in the back of my mind. After high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I tried the college thing for a little while, and it just wasn't for me. And then I entered the workforce and just didn't like where my life was going, what I was doing with my life, so I needed a change, and I joined the Marine Corps.
19 when I joined the Navy, you had no choice. Back then, Vietnam War was going very strong, and if you didn't fill your military obligation, you didn't get a job. So it's either join or get drafted. So I joined, and I joined the Navy.
I entered the Army at 22 years of age, right after graduating college. It was the Army, and I was a field artillery officer, is what I did. My grandfather would never talk about his experience. He would always talk very highly of the military. He would always talk very highly of his experience, but he wouldn't share his experience. He would talk very general about, what it was about and what he did. He only ever told me one story in the military in the middle of World War II. He was under a tank and they were sleeping, and the Germans had attacked them, and literally somebody came underneath and sprayed underneath their entire vehicle with automatic weapons, and his entire team was killed. And he was the only one who survived. And he had a classic case of survivor's guilt with that he carried the rest of his life. He never really broke free from that. Is why his question was always, why did I live? It's the only story he ever told me, but that kind of always resonated with me. It kind of always settled with me.
To put it kind of bluntly, my recruiter said, "You want to go blow stuff up, not go to jail?" I said, "Yeah, who doesn't?" And he's like, "I got a job for you." It was a lot of fun. It was a challenge. There was a drive where I just wanted to finish. I wanted to be the top of my class. I would go in and any other job opportunity they had, even in boot camp, I went and applied for it. And afterwards, I found out you ended up getting promoted for it out of basic training. So I came out a higher rank than most of the guys going in. But it was that drive where I just wanted to be the best person I could be.
I would say when I was getting ready to first deploy, there was a lot of gung-ho, let's get some, let's do it. And then I guess once you first get boots on ground, it's a change to scared, what I do, how am I gonna get through this, I hope I make it home kind of feeling. In my multiple deployments to Iraq, I've seen quite a bit of combat. Our first 2 weeks there, we had 2 8-foot rockets hit our gun pause, and the first one hit, it was about 200 yards away, and luckily it didn't detonate, or else I wouldn't be standing here right now. Being fresh in the Marine Corps, I wasn't even in the Marine Corps a year, and I'm getting shot by 8-foot rockets. My second deployment, there wasn't as much small arms fire or rocket attacks or anything like that. It was mostly IEDs and stuff like that. My first deployment to Fallujah, we were lucky we came back with everybody we went with. My second deployment to Fallujah, or to Altacottum wasn't as lucky. We ended up losing one of our guys in our unit. He was killed by an IED blast. It was tough. I was the communications chief at the time. I had to go and recover all the radios and everything out of the Humvees, which was very tough to deal with. That was early in our deployment going out. You know, we've hit a few IEDs. Luckily, I wasn't ever seriously injured or anything like that. You know, mostly vehicle damage and a lot of vehicle-borne IEDs. You know, Iraqis trying to blow us up or checkpoints up, and you know, they detonate the bombs, and you know, we're coming through a few minutes later, running over people's faces and hands. And when you first go on deployment and you start getting shot at, like, you have that asshole pucker moment, and then by the end of your deployment, you're laughing when you hear the bullets whizzing by your head, because you know they're not that close. Like, you know, once they start snapping by your head, then you have to worry a little more, you know. So I don't know if you just get used to it, or you adjust to it, or you just, you know, I don't know what it is, but you kind of just adapt to the life of combat.
I was stationed at the Naval Station Hospital in Da Nang at Marble Mountain. And I was in the triage area where you would run out, go to the helicopter with stretchers, take the guys off the helicopters, bring them into a staging area, and you'd either got them ready for surgery or just made it so that they'd be comfortable. And some of them just didn't make it. You had to take them to the morgue. You had no choice in this. It was very rough times, very rough. I had some problems when I came back. I definitely went to a psychiatrist. When I came back, I was supposed to get East Coast duty, and I went right past the East Coast into Rota, Spain. And luckily, I was working for a master chief, and he told me to go see a shrink. So, made up a couple appointments, and who wants to remember? Do you want to forget it? The more you forget, the better off you are. I came home on leave, and my sister antagonized me quite a bit, and I threw her into the wall. And my father came home, and she cried about it. And being that he was in a war himself, he knew what I was going through. He told her to leave me alone. He says, I'm not gonna bother you, brother. I mean, I did a lot of stupid things. I mean, cars backfire while you're driving. I leaned over. I let go of the wheel and I ducked. Luckily, my girlfriend at the time grabbed the steering wheel. Mercury lights, when they went on, it looked like pop-up flares. And I used to pull over to the side of the road, get out of the car, until I realized what I was doing. I even jumped out my window one night. Car backfired and I jumped out of the window in my bedroom. You do things like that. Your mind and your body have been trained, and I don't think it was just me. I think there was a lot of guys like that. It does take a big mental toll on you. And unfortunately, when you come back, a lot of families can't put up with that. They don't understand it. And they don't want to understand it because they want to remember their son or their daughter as they were before they left. the sweet, innocent person. Well, your sweet, innocent person isn't there anymore, and they don't realize it. And that makes it harder on the vet. That really makes it hard on them, because now they got to cope with the family that doesn't understand what's going on with them, and a lot of them don't want to talk about it to them. They don't want the family to get involved. And that's wrong. I think you should tell your family. Sit down, let them know, tell them about what's going on in your head, tell them you need help.
Came home in 2008. Our oldest daughter was 2. He wasn't working then, obviously. We had a little time in between. He'd show up just in time for me to walk out to work in the morning, because he'd walk home from a bar.
I just started drinking very heavily, you know. When I came home, try to numb the pain, try to, you know, find purpose in my life again, which it didn't. I'd be so drunk that I'd be passed out in an alleyway, or I'd be so drunk I'd be trying to walk 8-10 miles home, you know. Just leave me alone, let me go and let me do my thing, you know. It didn't work out very well. The alcohol therapy does not work well. After that, I went and got help from the VA and stuff like that, and got put on some medications. Medications weren't working the greatest, and you know, wasn't numbing the pain that I needed to numb. And I ended up seeing my family doctor and getting put on some prescriptions, Percocets and Xanax, and which I completely abused, and landed me a trip to rehab. So the pill therapy didn't work either that well for me.
It was a lot of pills for a long time. Yeah. And I guess it took me a long time to realize like that's what was going on. Like it was a lot of like whatever medicine the VA gave. Family doctors are like, can always double that. Fighting, lots of fighting. Lots of fighting. Like I knew like, you know, this is just normal life. Like kids cry and, you know, things change, but he wasn't on my same page there. The snowball effect, everything was going around in a circle. I think it took me sitting at a meeting while he was in rehab. I went to one of those family group meetings because they said that was necessary. And somebody saying that codependent behavior, pseudo-PTSD, and I never knew what that was. But I learned real quick what it was. And even like our oldest daughter, like she definitely understands what that means, and that's scary for me, that this is gonna affect her someday. Like for a lot of years, it was a lot of roller coaster rides, a lot of nights that I would wake up scared to death. Some nights I'd wait for him to get home from work and just so I could hear the car coming down the road. So I can then I'd just go to sleep because it wasn't worth fighting when he got home, but at least he wasn't on the side of the road somewhere. Yeah, that was quite a long period, I guess. Quite a few years of that. And I know the kids definitely had to know what was going on, so which scared me more. Was I putting them in a bad situation because of not leaving, or was I just the crazy one? It took me a little while to see what was going on, but I mean, there's nights that I've definitely woken up like hands around my neck because he's having like a night terror and not knowing what he's doing.
We've had some of the hardest years, 7 years I think it's been since he came home, and it's been a lot of ups and downs, you know, with the disease and, you know, different flares and hospitalizations, and he became very withdrawn, didn't want to participate in anything, many times wouldn't leave his room, just kind of laid in bed a lot all day long, you know, wouldn't even come down and join us for dinner many nights, you know, just he would get immersed into a hobby and do it for a while, and we thought that was the key, and then he'd get bored with that and pick up something else, and it never seemed to kind of fulfill him or make him feel satisfied.
I ended up closing myself off to everyone. I was isolated, still angry even a couple years later. Felt like a failure. I couldn't look my parents in the eye. I was disgusted with myself. Doing something that mattered and then coming home to selling car parts to someone who didn't care about you or treated you like garbage for $7.25 an hour, and then still struggling with the disease, and just still dealing with the fact I was angry. I was mad. I didn't know where to be mad at, though. I was just pissed at the hand I was dealt. I looked for any outlet or thing or whatever just to try to take my mind off of it. But that's where things, slowly degraded from there. I definitely suffered really bad from addiction with opioids. I had a real issue with those. I would go in with I would use my condition that I was already in to get more drugs. I would go in and say I had a problem with my Crohn's disease. I would say it was 10 times worse than what it actually really was. And that way the doctors would just load me up on pain meds. And they would just constantly keep doing that for me, and that was one of my outlets that I thought was helping me, which clearly was not. It made everything worse. I would go out and take those pills then, take a few with me to work here and there, and then I'd go out to a bar and drink, tell my mom and dad, yeah, I'm just gonna have one or whatever, and I would drink as much as I could that night. Come back home, throw up all in my bedroom, all over the place, pass out, wake up in the morning, hungover, and just trying to look and see what other things I could get my hands on when it came with the pills. Just self-medicating myself here and there, left and right, and that caused a big divide with my mom and dad. And at that point still, I just felt like, you know what, they'd be better off if I didn't exist anymore, if I was just gone. I was like, I wouldn't be causing them the fight anymore. I wouldn't be putting them through the stress that they're going through. So there were times where I'd take my gun, I'd put it in my mouth, and there was times I really wanted to pull the trigger, and then I'd fail at that too. And I'd just cry and medicate myself more. And just felt like, this is just not gonna end. It's either gonna end with me overdosing on these meds, or it's gonna end when the day I actually do pull that trigger.
In the last year, which was the second year of operation for Camp Freedom, we saw 409 disabled veterans attend our property, and we saw 82 disabled first responders attend our property. What's happened, though, in this new year so far, what's happened in particularly COVID-19 virus era that we're living in, is that has really, really continued to have the veterans, but the number of first responders has really spiked, has really come up. You can't unsee the things that these people roll up onto. You can't forget, that burning car. You can't forget, that house that you rushed into and people didn't come out of. You can't unsee that stuff. And so even though I don't have any first responder background, one of the most amazing things that happens here is the camaraderie that takes place between veterans and first responders.
One thing that Camp Freedom offers is that socialization component, that camaraderie component, which is huge for healing. There's actually research that shows people live longer that experience that interpersonal connectedness. Similarly, there's research that shows that people who experience chronic loneliness have similar health problems to those that are chronic smokers. So we have as humans this desire, this need for that connectedness, for that camaraderie. And that is something that Camp Freedom offers, which significantly increases the likelihood of the recovery process.
We've tried the just drug approach to helping a PTSD scenario. And I'm not saying there's never room for a drug or for some help, pharmaceutically, but when we've tried just that, and that's the end all be all, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. And that's where the outdoors, combined with peer-to-peer interaction, combined with that camaraderie, that is for lack of a better term, the secret sauce of Camp Freedom.
It brings guys that are struggling together, whether it's physically or mentally or whatever, and it gets guys together in a non-conventional atmosphere where relationships are built and they're formed and they last for a long time, and it's a big stress reliever for a lot of guys.
I think it's crucial that organizations like Camp Freedom exist. It's so needed, and the destigmatization of mental illness is not a one person, it's not a one organization job. And we need as many people out there fighting this fight and offering services to veterans that increase the access to care, that increase resilience, that increase the likelihood that people are going to engage in the actual activities that they're offering. Every person is different, and so it's important that we have a multitude of organizations that offer a variety of services, so veterans can choose. They have that. They have the power to choose which is the right fit for them and which is going to help them in their recovery the most.
I found Camp Freedom through my Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association. Vet Stock had a club, an event up there. We were invited to come up. We came up, and not even knowing that this was in my backyard in Carbondale. Went up, we checked the place out, we hung out for the day, it was a great place, and after that day, I kind of went up a few times here and there and volunteered, and through that volunteering, I found out more about what Camp Freedom was about. I then applied for a hunt. I was able to be a recipient of one of the veteran hunts and had an awesome time hunting with Matt and the guys. He took me out and we harvested an awesome deer. We had a great time. We shared a lot of stories. And, just through hanging out and hunting in the outdoors, we just, talked about a lot of things that I don't talk to a lot of people about.
I started at Camp Freedom mid-September of 2019. I started as a volunteer. Actually, I came here originally for a meeting with Matt and Mike through a Jeep club that me and another disabled veteran started. After talking with Matt and Mike here at Camp Freedom, they're like, come on in, hang out with us, help out. We got work we can have you do. So I came in, I volunteered, and I basically never left.
Camp Freedom gives you people that you could relate to. Like, they provide that for you. That's there. That's built into the whole place. They're worried about you. Want to make sure you're okay, and like whatever they can do to help you, they will.
Camp Freedom is a place where you can go to enjoy your life. when you think everything is not there anymore. You can't do nothing. I have a hard time walking, and they have like an elevator that'll take you up and down. So if you can't walk, don't worry about the stairs. If you're in a wheelchair, no problem. Walker, no problem. If you're missing a limb, no problem. They will accommodate you any way, shape, or form that you need to be accommodated by.
Over the last 18 years, we have been on a roller coaster ride. Up and down. Good, bad. But now it seems like there'll be more good than bad. And I think Camp Freedom has a lot to do with that. There are a lot of resources out there, and some work for people and some don't. But once you find something that really does work, stick with it. Once you find something that is what you're looking for, and I think most people will find that at Camp Freedom. It's the idea behind it was well thought out. The people that have put in all the effort here and all the time and energy to make Camp Freedom what it is now really went to great lengths to understand what veterans are going through, and first responders or anybody that's dealt with trauma, traumatic events. Camp Freedom knows what they're doing, and they will be helpful.
There's a lot of people we haven't reached yet here, and there's so many more that we can save and help. I can say that from experience for me here at Camp Freedom. If I hadn't found this place, well, we definitely wouldn't be having this conversation today. The fact that Camp Freedom is here and saved my life and turned me around shows that, there's many more out there just like me who are in the same spot that just need this place. And if they come here and experience what we have here, it could be that simple thing of putting the gun down, putting the bottle down, putting the pills down. And it just would if we could save one more person like that went through what I went through or is struggling with what I struggled with, it's worth it, no matter what, hands down. I owe this place my life, and I will stay here and help and continue to help until there's nothing left. Hopefully that day doesn't come. Hopefully we can keep going and helping people out, but outdoor adventure saves lives, and I am living proof that it does.